here's what's coming up on the Cold Podcast.
Cool, but like I remember my first job, I washed dishes at Panera Bread. I used to make sandwiches, but I got caught drooling in a sandwich. And then they said,
Were you asleep?
No, I was singing, and then I drooled into a sandwich.
So you can afford the ability to have your passion become your income. I think you should definitely always prioritize your foundation too.
And the main thing is like being able to find freedom through that value you're providing in society.
What's poppin', everybody?
Welcome back to the Cold Podcast.
I'm Zoe.
And I'm Steve.
And today we're going to have a discussion-based show where we're going to talk about the differences between traditional employment and entrepreneurship, you know, what works for you and kind of the pros and cons of both. Just kind of etch my flag in the sand. I've spent a lot of my life doing more traditional employment, so I can mostly am going to be speaking on, in favor of that.
Yeah, and I say screw that. I've been more of an entrepreneur most of my life, and also I wanted to introduce our guest today, Chris Ralpheisen, comedian from Bangkok, Thailand. We used to perform together in the trenches.
Nice to be here.
And yeah, welcome, man. Thanks for showing up.
Happy to be here, brother.
So pretty much the gist of the argument, I mean, it's not really an argument. I guess the conversation will just be like, what's preferable? Should you be an entrepreneur or should you be someone who maintains traditional employment? Personally, I believe that there's like opportunity to have a combination of both. I think that fuck. Hold on, wait. Sorry. Can we zoom in? I'll just cut
Close
this
up. Close up on
All right,
Steve.
yeah.
I'm blind. I am super blind. I forgot to say that. Yeah.
There we go.
I'll cut this part out. We can just go.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll just pick it up.
Pick up the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, oh wait. Let me just go into it.
All right, take a deep breath.
And I actually believe that being an entrepreneur offers a lot of different upsides, especially in terms of freedom, in terms of your lifestyle choices. What you're able to actually achieve in life sort of is more varied based on if you're an entrepreneur. And I think that if you have a traditional job, things may be comfortable and stable, but it's a little bit harder to have that flexibility or freedom.
Okay.
point.
I would argue, I mean, that's true, but I would say, especially if you're on the beginning stages of your life where you're trying to, maybe build a foundation, I think traditional employment might be the better route to go, only because that offers you a little bit more consistency. So if you have like a long-term plan or goal for how you want to structure your life, having consistent income, a consistent routine to kind of build like consistency, keep and maintain like a certain work ethic because you're used to like having to do something in a routine manner every day. I think that's going to build good habits. I think it's going to allow you to plan and execute long-term goals a little bit more efficiently. And I think it just builds good habits for you overall.
I think it depends on the types of goals that you're executing, actually, because if you're in a consistent situation where you have that foundation built, I wouldn't argue that it's easier to build a foundation if you're an entrepreneur. I wouldn't argue that. But I do believe that if you are in a traditional job role, it's easier to get comfortable and complacent, and then you may get sort of like nested in that process of, so like, for example, your goals may be lower because you have the comfort, so you don't need to push yourself as far.
I mean, I get that 100%. And I'm not going to argue that's not a real thing. Like, there are a lot of people, I think, that, they start working, like, let's say a entry-level job, whether it's retail, whether it's maybe even like telemarketing or whatever, and they just kind of stay there because it's comfortable and they get complacent. And then maybe if they had any plans, that just kind of falls to the wayside. That's a real thing. And I have no qualms with someone who seeks traditional employment as, like, people can do that, but my idea of traditional employment is that I think it's a good means to an end. So it's like, if your goals is like seeking happiness outside of the workplace, where it's like, I just do this to make ends meet, but in the meantime, when I'm not working, I work on like things that allow me to express myself creatively or have more freedom. I think that's perfectly fine. Or you could be the person that uses it to kind of get a foundation built, so then you could pursue your personal happiness later. I think that's like the ideal situation a person should strive for. But I definitely would be more on the thing of, if you're just getting out of school or you're just starting off in life, I don't think there's anything wrong with, and I would actually encourage getting something more stable first to begin life with, because I think that's just going to bode well. It's not fast money, but it's consistent
It's
money.
steady, yeah.
Yeah.
It's steady, and I'm not necessarily trying to be argumentative here, but I think that, at a younger age, like say you're fresh out of school, fresh out of college or high school, for example, if you start earlier at trying to build a business, then you're going to have a lot more experience. So then by the time you're like our age, for example, you'll have the experience needed to be able to sort of pivot into something that may be actually equitable.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you can just jump into a business fresh out of school and actually succeed,
Yeah.
but you're going to fail immediately.
Yeah.
And you're going to fail a lot. So it makes a lot of sense if you actually choose to go into that failure while you still have the safety net of, say, like family or friends or whatever that can kind of catch you if you fall down and sort of instruct you. And honestly, it's like when you're younger, it's very intimidating to go into like entrepreneurship or go into business or something like that. But I think because you're younger and more, you're just younger, so people will help you. It's kind of like what I want to say.
Depending
It's
on
like,
the thing.
You still got like your puppy dog
Yeah.
eyes. You can
Yeah.
like bat them at them. They'll help
Yeah.
you. Like, ah.
like you're still cute. You haven't been,
They're still cute.
you haven't
Like a
been roughed up by life.
22-year-old man just like, please,
Please, sir, can you show me how to do my 401k?
Is this taxable income? Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, Chris, what do you think, man? What do you think about?
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think fuck, man, shit's gonna be hard no matter what you do. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you might as well work hard to get what you want at the end of it all. But I honestly think like you obviously you can't just start as an entrepreneur. No one just says, I'm going to just be an entrepreneur since day one. I think very few people can do that shit. Maybe you start off as a drug dealer in high school or something like that and learn things. And like if you're cool like that, then that's cool. But like I remember my first job, I washed dishes at Panera Bread. I used to make sandwiches, but I got caught drooling in a sandwich. And then they said,
Were you asleep?
No, I was singing, and then I drooled into a sandwich, and then
Ooh.
and then here's why. Then I looked around. I looked around, and I was gonna throw it away, but I didn't throw it away like immediately. And my manager saw me like hesitate,
Oh,
so I washed dishes for 2 years.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
that's actually really fun.
Yeah,
So
but
you probably needed to start in the
right,
workforce.
but that's like it teaches you. It's like starting in the workforce. Having a gainful employment, and you just learn how to work, how to be consistent, how to show up and do things that you don't want to do. I was also in
Yeah,
the military.
that's a big part.
I joined the Marines when I was 18 as well.
Really?
Believe it or not. Yeah, which was I should probably stayed and played sports in college instead. But I don't know. I joined the Marines, and that also was like I don't know. I learned how to do something that I didn't want to do at a very young age.
I like that.
And I think that's super important for being an entrepreneur because you got to do all this shit. And like, you want the fucking outcome. You want to be rich. You want to have all this shit. And you want to be like, you want to work for yourself. But you also have to wake up early as fuck. You got to like get all this shit. You got to organize everything. There's all this shit in the background that no one sees that you got to be on top of.
Yeah.
Right. And I'd say, like, yeah, the military definitely, I guess that's something that we didn't necessarily think about because I guess the military is almost like, is it traditional employment? Not really.
Yeah.
But it also teaches you a lot of skills.
Yeah.
Probably a lot faster than you would in like a job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, kind of join the military. Yeah, do it. Just join it. Fuck it. Just do it. If you're watching this, just do it. Just do it and find
Do
out.
it.
I mean, it's what's cool about the military. You learn. You're just surrounded by role models that like kind of you're surrounded by people that are a lot older than you and got their shit together and they've seen crazy shit, and that rubs off on
learn
you.
that structure
Yeah.
for sure.
So like you get a lot of good influence, but you could also easily just turn into a shitbag and turn into a dirtbag, and drinking and gambling and just go down. You just lose control or whatever. I don't know. You get complacent as you said earlier as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
that's also a big thing. It's just about who you are and what you want to be. I think it's important that you have a defined vision of your future self, and you got to kind of always go in that direction no matter what you're doing.
Which is hard
I
to do.
agree.
Which is hard to do when you're younger, especially
hard.
like having a actual defined vision of who you want to be.
Yeah.
Like even when we were together in Thailand, like I didn't really have like any defined thing. I was like, maybe I want to be a comedian. So I tried being
Yeah.
a comedian. It was actually excellent, really fun, but I didn't have anything beyond that. I didn't have the
Yeah.
idea like, okay, I'm not making any money doing this.
Yeah.
So like how am I going to sustain myself? And I think it's part of becoming an entrepreneur, kind of like you said. I don't think that you can just get out of high school and become an entrepreneur. I think someone has to like pull you up into it. Like someone has to
Yeah.
like sort of give you an opportunity where you can learn. Either it's going to be through a job or it's going to be through like a family business or it's going to be through like maybe the military. Like you learn how to
Sure.
lead people, you learn how to deal
Yeah.
with people.
Yeah, I don't think the military. Like, I'm not the military. The only thing the military gives you good discipline and it makes you show up for things you don't want to do. That's what it does. It makes you like, I wake up early. I'll wake up early. I got to go do this shit. I'll do this shit. You can just sit down and just do work.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the military.
Yeah,
That's-
those are some skills that I'm actually missing. Like in terms of like, I wish I could do that. I can't get up early. I don't want to do things I don't want to do. So it's like I'm missing a lot of the pieces that I need in order to be like an effective entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Even coming from that entrepreneurial perspective, it's like I don't necessarily have certain skills that would be very valuable that someone who's worked traditional employment for a long time may actually have.
Yeah.
So like, I don't have anyone forcing me to get up.
And I'll actually bounce off of that because I'm glad you brought up the discipline thing because, in favor of entrepreneurship, I see the benefit of like trying to start as early as possible because if you have a really good idea and you're sure it's going to work and you have the ability to kind of like, act on it, starting young gives you the ability to make more mistakes along the way and learn quicker. So like by the time, you're the age of the guy who's just starting out, you've already kind of like got a background of knowledge that's going to, make your next endeavor a little bit more successful. Or at least allow you to make more educated like moves or steps. But like you said, the problem is a lot of people, if they just go straight from, let's say, high school to thinking like, I'm going to start, my own business or I'm going to go and do this. A lot of times they don't have any discipline. And I think discipline is that factor that I think makes a lot of people, that limits a lot of people's potential because it allows you to, like I said, be able to do the things that you don't feel like doing. Because a lot of building and maintaining, or, a lot of building entrepreneurship or businesses, it's going to take a lot of, like, maintaining tedious work that you don't necessarily want to do all the time. And that's a really difficult thing for most people.
It turns you into a man,
yeah. Yeah, and I think the things in life that we take for granted that kind of like builds those skills, like having traditional employment, that forces you to be disciplined enough to get up every day and do something you don't want to do. Even finishing school is a thing that's like, if you can get through it, that I think that's maybe the true value of a degree, to be honest. It just kind of shows people that you're able to, finish things out or like, get through the process of doing something you may not necessarily like. I think that's kind of like what it is. It shows discipline. So I think in a sense, that's why I kind of see like, even if you don't want to commit all the way, maybe a part-time job wouldn't be bad. Maybe having a trade, just like on the side, doing something that forces you to go out of your way to do something that's beneficial, but not necessarily engaging.
And you can do both, right?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to stick with one or the other.
Yeah.
If you start off traditional but have some sort of ideas as to what entrepreneurial things you want to pursue, learn that, buy some stuff and get, small amount of exposure or investment in it, and then eventually lean into it. So that's an option.
Yeah, I think we live in a day and age where like you can have a job and then you can dance with entrepreneurship and
like a side hustle.
Right, like my day job is I teach science at a high school, right, and that's my I used to be a full-time comic. After COVID, I had to sell out, become a teacher in Asia, but that's my day job. Right, but at night I promote comedy and I run comedy shows and I produce comedy shows in Bangkok and around Thailand. But it's always and of course it's an artistic thing. So you got to have like, even as a comic, it's like, all right, well, right now I have to it sucks when you have to put the show first instead of putting the art first, and you got to put the jokes first. Yeah, because I want to just like joke first. I want to just focus on the jokes, but now I got to put on, I got to think about the promotion and the advertisements and getting the photo. Getting whatever images and graphics I need, just talking to the fucking owners, like whatever the split's gonna be, right? All that shit. What's the take on the door? What's the take on the drinks?
The logistics of it
all that shit, right? So like, it's good to have that muscle as well, and you can like, you can I don't know. They both feed into each other.
Be like water, as Bruce Lee says.
Be like water, right? Yeah, I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship, though. If you can hit me up on OnlyFans at Big Gay Chris 911.
There you go. Yeah, I saw this on a poster, so I'm not gonna take credit for like the actual quote, but like I think the three things that every person needs is something that makes them money, something that keeps them creative, and something that keeps them in shape. So it's like have a job, have a passion. And then, have active hobbies. I think if you tackle all three of those things, you're going to be in a relatively good spot. I think the thing with entrepreneurship is that some people are fortunate enough to where the thing that keeps them creative is also the thing that makes them money. Yeah, but unfortunately, most people don't have that luxury. So I think, like you said, I think everyone should have something they work on outside of work that stimulates their mind, something they can work on, something they can build or create. And then, but also balance that by being like, I have to live, I got to make ends meet. So I think that's where traditional employment comes in. Until you can afford the ability to have your passion become your income, I think you should definitely always prioritize your foundation too. And, if you're not as privileged enough to have, like, maybe a foundation where you have parents that can subsidize your life, maybe you didn't come from money, most of the time you should always prioritize the things that's going to, like, pretty much be the most crucial to your survival, and then kind of work up that ladder from there. So I think, like, that's why I think traditional employment for most people is going to be like the first thing you want to make sure you nail down, and then get your entrepreneurial ventures like as you go along. And maybe, like they said, work on it as a hobby because you want to do it. That'll build consistency. And then once that starts to make money, that's when you invest in it.
I feel like that's like, and there's nothing wrong with what they're saying. And I'm not saying this in an offensive way or anything. But I feel like that's like something that, like, part of what you were saying is almost like the mainstream way of describing like how someone should get into entrepreneurship. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like you should have your foundation, and then you should slowly build your way there. But I think that if you wait, it's like, for example, if you have an idea and you have a job, which one takes priority, the idea or the job? Most of the time, it's going to be the job, because people aren't willing to risk their foundation for the actual job. So I think if instead of building a foundation that's reliant on traditional employment, if somebody just says, you know what, I'm going to give myself 10 years to figure it out, right? Maybe they do part-time jobs here and there. Maybe they do whatever they need to do. Like Chris said, maybe they get a job, just to pay the bills. But at the same time, it's like you have to be putting in the same or more effort into building your thing. It can't just be as a hobby. I guess that's probably the only point that I really have a problem with in terms of the like the typical mainstream like entrepreneurship versus traditional employment thing, where it's like turn your hobby into a business. It's like, well, why even start at hobby when you could just say like, well, I'm going to start at business. You know what I'm saying? Like,
There's something to be said about people that like their hobby is just like, I just identify something that can make money, and then that's my thing. Like I sell water. I'm not like obsessed with water. I don't love water, but I just sell bottled water because it's a big fucking profit margin. I'm just, as an example, I don't really do that shit.
Okay.
By the way, I'm a great water bottle salesman. But I'm just saying like the people that can, they're just kind of soulless and godless, and they just look at the thing and like, I can make money from this.
Right, money.
And then they
Give me
just
this money.
And then that's my hobby, is just trying to make money off, selling this thing for a profit, basically.
I always think
There's
about
something
that.
to be said about that. Yeah.
I always think about that when you see like those people, like those companies where it's like, yeah, we manufacture this weird little thing, like a piece of metal. It's just like a metal plate.
Right.
Like I have a metal plate manufacturer, or I make envelopes. It's like, why would
it's just, we're not built like that. Like I have to like have I like want to have like an artistic thing, and like I want to entertain, I want to do a thing and like make a logo and shit. Like it's just, I care so much about everything that I'm just not built to just put out fucking product like some without a face on it, like a soulless thing.
I just like you.
I wish I was.
No, 100%. Just like you reminded me that one of the things I have to come to terms with is that I'm a person that's like, I'm not motivated by money, and by that it's like, and that's why entrepreneurship is always kind of like, I guess, taking a back seat in my head, because like I said, there are people like, I used to work at I used to be a freight broker. I used to work at a brokerage, and you have to make a bunch of calls every day, try to get companies so you can like move their freight, and you can make a lot of money, but like most of the time it's like it had a high turnover rate, and most of the people that were making it, like the disparity is huge. It's like there's only a few people making a lot of money and a lot of people making not that much money. And so the idea is like, if I put the effort in, I'm going to be like those guys making a lot of money. But to get there, there's like you got to have like a high motivation to just do something that makes you miserable for hours on end, in the hopes that you're going to get there. And for me, it's like, if I'm the type of person where it's like, I don't mind. I would much rather just have a traditional job that pays me for my time there than, doing something that I absolutely hate for the opportunity to become rich. Because the thing is, I'm not motivated by the idea, like, if I just keep doing this thing that's literally killing me inside, I'll get an extra dollar. Like, I would rather do something I like for no money and hope that one day it turns to something than to sell my, basically sell my soul. Like I said, being the metal plate salesman who's just like, soullessly going through life for that extra change. Like that's not living to me.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that for sure.
To me, it's like a massive personality thing. Like a lot of the time, your personality will kind of dictate like what you guys are saying. Like if you're more of a go-getter, if you like to be a traveler, if you like action, you might choose that entrepreneurial route.
Yeah.
But if you're a person that's more safe, more like grounded in like a traditional, like maybe religious hierarchy or something,
Right. You wear
then
condoms.
you'll go about, just trying to live life in a normal way. That's not trying to, be. You don't want to be a rich person. You don't want to be somebody that goes that extra mile. You're okay with just being, having a standard life. So. Yeah.
I think that speaks a lot to the character of the individual for sure. Generally though, so for example, my desire to be an entrepreneur and actually build something and work is not necessarily because I want to get rich. It's not really because I want to have a certain level of status. It's truly because I want to have I run a podcast production business and we've been doing podcasting for 4 years. It's because I genuinely actually love podcasting. And I know that through that love for podcasting, I can sort of eliminate a lot of the wasted time. Like how you guys were saying, doing something soulless that you hate that makes you basically an automaton where you're not actually enjoying life. You just hate everything.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible. But, every time I've ever been in business, really, it's been doing something that I actually cared about. Yeah. And I think having that level of passion connected to what you do is definitely something that, offers an ultimate level of value. And the main thing is being able to find freedom through that value you're providing in society. Instead of just, pretty much filling a need that a company has, you can fill a need that a marketplace has. And if you can fill a marketplace need, then you can put the same amount of work in but get a greater return in terms of your freedom, your time, income potentially, and all those things. It just requires a little bit more risk.
Yeah.
Right. And that's that risk. A lot of people aren't willing to take that risk. So,
and I think that's the thing too, because to your statement earlier, I think when you determine whether or not you want to how strongly you want to pursue a entrepreneurial endeavor, you are weighing the risk versus the risk, the reward, and the safety of it. Because it's if you do take a traditional job and you wait and you hold off on your dream, to kind of build a foundation, it's a safer route. And I think that's what make people want to do it, because they don't want to take that risk. Because if you do it early, it is more efficient. But it's kind of like the idea of what's the quickest way to be a millionaire? To rob a bank, probably. But most people are going to do that because the risk that's incurred. But that is probably the quickest way you can make $1 million. So that's why I kind of see,
Or you can start our OnlyFans.
That too. But then you never get married. But no, that's that's kind of why it's I think with everything, you always got to make sure what you're doing is a calculated risk. And that's why even with entrepreneurship, I see the benefit of it, of being more efficient in how you attack it by starting early, going at it full throttle. But like I said, it's not a guarantee, and you got to also understand that weighing that risk and reward. I think it's better. It'll benefit more people to do it in a safer manner. And I think if it's gonna be better for more people to do it that way, that's the way that I think is the best way to teach it. What's best for the majority of people, what's going to give the better outcomes overall.
Yeah, there's a lot of debt involved in entrepreneurship, so
I feel like
potentially.
Everyone's kind of working with the general balance of how much am I working for someone else and how much am I working for myself until they actually gain something of value, like property or something they can actually tangibly grow from and then become singularly independent. Otherwise, you're just working on contracts. You're just working for someone else in the end.
Yeah.
I remember even starting working as an engineer, I think it's important to step back from things too, because you might get like tunnel vision no matter what you're in. I engineered for other people, and I think it really didn't allow me to work on my own work. I had to literally step back and work part-time at a restaurant, because by the time I got out of work, I exploded out into my own stuff. And then engineering for people without the need for money, because I mindlessly did something.
Right.
And then I had that much more time to really invest without looking for profit. And I think that's another thing that has to be viewed. How much of it is actually for you no matter what.
Yeah. I agree with that, because as a writer, I've been a copywriter for 10 years now, but I've always been really good at writing. I found a lot of passion in writing. I enjoy doing it. But having written for a career for so long, I will admit that I sort of sacrificed my passion for writing in order to be a copywriter. Now I'm less excited to write things. I don't really update my personal blog. I don't write things for fun, because now writing has more become like a utility in order to profit and to secure the free lifestyle that I live. So it's part of the soul of it has been sort of sold out or left behind, because now it's like, well, I'm not really writing anything I care about. I'm not writing anything fun. I'm just writing like useless blog articles that no one's reading.
Yeah,
it's the same thing with doing comedy. It's because it's like the way I see it. There's people out there. There's people in Asia that think that I'm just gonna focus on making money from comedy, and then that's all they focus on. They put the money first. They don't put the art first, and then they end up sucking and becoming hacks.
True,
You know who you
no
are.
passion, just,
right?
no passion, just desire.
Exactly. And
for
here's
money.
the thing: like, you have to do this if it's art and you want to be an artist and you want to roll entrepreneurship into that. There's much easier ways to make money than producing comedy shows. There's a million easier ways to make money than doing comedy shows, and to think that this is the only way I can make money is a broken mindset. And what the thing about comedy is like, you have to be like with your writing. It's best when you're doing it in service of other people, and you're just doing it in service of yourself, but to others and the other people that want to read your writing or want to watch your comedy and be entertained by you, or other comics that want an audience to tell their shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's more fun. There's more fun in
Yeah,
it.
exactly. It's
Like when I'm writing, it's not that I don't write for fun. It's that I just don't really have like the passion or drive to do it as often.
Yeah.
But I think I can actually relate to. I mean, we both did comedy in Thailand for a while, and there was a point where I was like, "Oh man, I can be like a full-time comic." So like sort of similar to you. So it was like, I was still writing on the side, but then I ended up not writing anymore. And
you were making more than me.
Yeah.
You were
I was selling that black cock. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you remember that stuff, but yeah. So I was out there, trying to.
There's the name of alcohol.
Yeah, I was like, get some context.
It's the name of his black cock.
So I'll just quickly interlude. This was like an
Black guy
entrepreneurial
selling
thing.
black cock.
There was a bottle of whiskey called Black Cock, and I would get on stage after my sets every night, and after the whole show was over, we would auction off the Black Cock. And there were times like the max we sold it for was like 6,000 baht. Like that's like $200.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I would split it with the fat club owner, and I would get a lot of sometimes I'd get a lot of money, sometimes I wouldn't get anything, and it would just be like pathetic and embarrassing.
Yeah.
I get like $10 for it, and I'm just up there like selling myself.
Just being a black man at an auction.
Yeah, just be it. Yeah,
Steve's literally just a prop to sell this alcohol.
Hey, you want this black cock?
yeah. I feel like that's what women feel like most of the time.
Probably.
Yeah, like as like models and stuff, they just have to stand there.
Bottle girls are literally just that.
But yeah, back to the point. With doing stand up, I basically would I would say that once it became like my main source of income, it became less fun. It became like sort of soul sucking.
Well, it's weird because it's scary because that's what I want to get back to that. That's what I want to do, but I want to have other things that are adjacent, like YouTube. I want to have other shit that like, that can make producing shows and like selling merch and whatever stuff like that.
Exactly.
Graphics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Things
it's
that
like-
are like adjacent to the comedy.
Sure.
So you can still enjoy.
But
the
it would be,
comedy.
but I want to ultimately make a lot of money with comedy. Just doing it as an entrepreneur, but like, you're right. It is gonna like take some of the soul out of it because it depends how much I'm thinking about the money. As long as I put the art first. The important thing is to always just keep putting the art first. Keep putting the art first.
I think it's
Gotta put
only
the passion first in anything.
yeah.
I think it's only really an issue, like especially with comedy. It's only really an issue when maybe like not booking a show will lead to you not being able to pay an important bill.
Yeah,
But like
sure.
once you're past that point where you're making enough money, it's like now it doesn't really matter. Now you can be as passionate as you want because you have your
exactly.
audience and it doesn't matter.
That's where everyone's trying to get to. I think that's the healthy altitude.
I think having multiple ventures is a way to kind of alleviate that because any hobby that you have that eventually becomes like maybe your main source of income, it basically incentivizes it to where like, cause I think what makes a hobby is the fact that you have the freedom to do it whenever you want and you enjoy doing it because you kind of have that like ability to go to and from it when you please. But like once you have to do it, it becomes more of a job, and I think that sucks the fun out of it. Like, and I think that's where like burnout comes in. Like it's like, I don't feel like doing stand-up. I enjoy it, but I don't feel like doing it. But now I know I have to do it. Now it's not fun to do. And I think, last part, the way to kind of alleviate that is to maybe have multiple ventures. So I think once you get to a certain point, like if not only do I do stand-up, but I have a podcast, I do YouTube, I do guest appearances, I go on tour. I think maybe that's the secret to kind of having to make your life a little bit more versatile so that you never get burned out with one thing and you can keep having your hobbies and you can keep enjoying them without feeling the need to have to just do that.
I think it's interesting because like you can actually juxtapose that with the podcast we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Where it's like we're not making any money, but all of us have like different things going on, so it's not as much of a pressure for us to actually be like, oh man, we got to go do the podcast again. It's like
Right.
you know, it's like we actually, but
It's
that's
like a break in the week now. It
Yeah.
feels like I'm getting a break from my life.
yeah,
So
it's
it
like
feels
actually
good.
fun. It's enjoyable.
fun.
It doesn't feel like
Yeah.
work.
Mm-hmm.
But would you call it a hobby? Is what I'm wondering.
Right now I would. I mean, and the only reason I would say it's a hobby is because, well, at this point it can't be a job. I mean,
Right.
you know, jobs pay you.
Right,
But,
that's true.
You know, but we're working at it. But it's like, you know, if I'm not getting paid, like the only motivating factor for me being here is because I truly want to do it. Is because
Passion.
Yeah,
I get
passion,
actual
right.
passion and desire from creating. Like even when I was doing like gaming channel or a gaming channel, I did that just because I enjoyed playing games and I wanted to feel like the dopamine of creating. Like I get, you know, I get a lot of fulfillment out of that. So that's what motivates me to do it. And that's what this is. But I feel like that, you know, I think maybe what you were trying to get at, as what I'm assuming, is that like, you know, if you're not viewing it as a job, you're never going to push it to be further than it could be. But I think you can have a hobby that you invest in until it becomes a job. You know, but that's kind of how I view it. I don't think it's going to diminish like your value to it by viewing it as a hobby. Because there's a lot of people whose hobby, like most basketball players play basketball, like NBA players, you know, they played it as a hobby because they liked it. And then it became a job once they realized I'm talented in it. Let me invest to see how far I can go.
Yeah.
I think that's what this is, you know. I like doing it. I want to keep doing it. And I want it to grow. And once we start to see like how big it can be and invest into it, maybe then it'll become a job.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe only a semantic difference
Right.
because
There's something in between hobby. There's no
we're
term.
missing a word.
Yeah, there's no term
Somewhere
for
between
it.
hobby and job that you get paid for what you love to do, and then that you're just doing it for fun. There's something in the middle because like you are getting something out of it. You're getting exposure. You're getting like love. You know, like for me, a hobby would be like if I fucking. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to swear.
That's fine.
if I like collect Pokemon cards or some shit, that's a
Yeah.
hobby.
True.
Right,
But
because
if you
I'm not
sell
going to be
them-
famous for collecting Pokemon cards. I'm not going to be known for. Maybe I will be known. I don't know.
You could be like Logan Paul.
I
Yeah,
think
I guess.
whatever you do, it's your occupation, and you have to find the lanes to make it valuable. If you find your active, like passive behavior as valuable, and find a way to make everything you do have value, then everything is just a matter of passion.
Yeah.
I agree. That's a good way to put
Yeah,
it.
I like that. It's actually fire.
Aspiring. You're
Should be a
aspiring
ding on
to
that
be aspiring to be something. You're aspiring to turn, you know,
Yeah,
either a hobby into
You only want to expand everything you're doing.
passion.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think having that opportunity to actually explore your passion actually makes you more passionate in other areas of your life too.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you're, you know, when I was doing comedy, I was probably the most passionate I'd ever been. Like when I was actually out there on stage every night and getting into like just doing something that's fully creative. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
the same with this podcast. Like we only get to do it once a week. I can't do it every day, unfortunately, but I would. And I guess that's like a show of passion. Like I would do this every day if all the cards lined up and we could do it.
Oh yeah.
I think it's ironic that and kind of funny just that amount of creative work can lead you to get so organized and so like into other things as well. Because I know you were really looking at other lanes and you were really getting organized at that point in your life about business.
Yeah.
It's like all that fun that you had kind of just fueled the desire to make it into a business
Yeah.
truly and like start getting into paperwork and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
like actually trying to help other people build their podcast because I learned how to build a podcast, and
The
I
logistics
think it.
become fun.
But I guess that goes back to kind of like if we circle back to like what we were saying earlier, maybe like having experience doing creative entrepreneurship. Like I'd say there's a difference between creative entrepreneurship and then just entrepreneurship where you're just end goals to make money. Creative entrepreneurship, you can learn how to do something as a hobby to start. You start doing it for a while. Maybe you enjoy it, maybe you don't, so you try a different hobby. But then you find a hobby that actually is lucrative, like, you know, maybe you knit, you know, like knitting.
Ooh.
You know, you could sell your freshly knitted garbage
Freshly knit.
or whatever. your scarves and
Imagine a
whatnot.
little bin, freshly nicked garbage.
Like you just knit it up and then throw it away immediately. You could
A
just
garbage quilt.
Yeah, that could be the name of a brand. Freshly
would.
knitted garbage.
That'd be awesome.
Get to knitting, Steve.
But yeah, you build up something that's valuable and you do it enough to where you can leverage it for like actual money or like
Yeah.
respect or pussy.
You could teach other people.
There you go.
Exactly.
you can use it to teach other people how to do it too.
And that too, right?
yeah,
Hell
stuff like that.
Wait, that has value. Yeah, it has a lot of value, honestly.
Yeah.
True.
So, because most people aren't creative, and they have to learn how to be creative. Like a lot of the clients I have when it comes to podcasting, they're like terrified. They're scared. They're like so scared to like speak into a microphone for 10 minutes.
That's crazy.
And it's actually like insane because you don't really think about it from the outside. I mean, from the other side. But like we all started that way.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember my first open mic. I don't know if you were terrified at your first open mic, but I wasn't necessarily terrified. It was more so that I just did not know what the outcome would be. I didn't know what would happen next. So there was an element of fear. But I remember my first open mic, it was actually, you were there. You hosted it, right?
Was it at stage time?
Oh, it was at stage time. Yeah.
Was
I'm
it?
pretty sure you hosted it. Yeah.
Maybe. Possible.
Yeah,
I
but
think so.
I think it was like, the thing with it was like I wasn't afraid, but I had fear. I wasn't like terrified, but it was like you're getting used to doing something creative and new. And I'd never really done anything creative in my life. So it's like being capable of taking that creative opportunity and sharing it with others, that actually helps them become more creative, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with that, like that fear, a lot of times come from people just having a general fear of putting themselves out there. I
Yeah.
think once you've done something enough times, like even with the show, because you get comfortable with it, you find your own rhythm. You at this point, like I say with us, like we operate good because we kind of know like what our capabilities are. We've seen how we produce or how we talk and everything. And that's your reference point now. So it's like you don't really go back from that. I think when you first start off, it's like you have all these other different expectations running through your mind because it's like, I don't know what I'm going to look like. What do I look like? Do I sound good? Am I saying the right things? Is this how I usually speak? Is this how people are supposed to speak when they're on the mic? Like you have all those things that are like affecting how you're performing, and it becomes very unnatural because you've never seen yourself get comfortable to sound natural.
Right.
So I think that's what repetition builds, is that once you do it enough times and that comfortability sets in, that's when like you don't have that in your mind anymore. You're just going on stage and doing what you always do.
Yeah, you could almost say like repetition and then review, because like I've watched all of the podcasts like probably 5 times. Like,
Yeah.
everything we've done, I've seen it. So I've seen myself for at least 20 minutes each time speaking into a microphone, and I've analyzed like how I articulate and how every part of this operates, because like obviously like I'm like the main host, I guess, of the show. So it's like my responsibility to make sure that I understand the flow of the show and how everything operates within the show. And through doing that, I guess I've gotten like a different lens on specifically the nature of podcasting. And I think that you could almost call it intellectual property. It's something that can be packaged and sold. And I guess you don't develop something like that just by, for example, like you can't go to like maybe take a podcasting seminar or something. You can't just like a class or a seminar or something like that.
It's like you know exactly who you are, and you know what your voice is. And you built that over time, so you just know that that's what you bring every time, and you're not nervous. For me, I'm never nervous about anything anymore, but it's more like anticipation. Like I just want to get it over with.
Yeah.
I want to just do it. Not here, but like for like a big stage or something like that. I'm like, I just want to go out there. But the thing is, just like in podcasting, it's you have to be present. You got to be just present, and you got to be fucking, you're there, you're present, and you're in the moment, and that's where you are, and you're not thinking about like shit in the future or anything. You just live, just in the moment, just present.
Yeah.
Present. That's the key to this shit.
Very true.
Well
Present,
said.
fearless, like in that Will Smith movie when he was fighting aliens. James Smith.
Men in
that.
Black.
Yeah.
Also,
would just say,
Independence
like-
Day.
Oh, never mind. I thought of Will Smith and
Oh,
aliens. I went to Men in Black. My bad.
That's
How you fought
hilarious.
aliens then?
He did.
I would just say, like, whenever you are setting these type of goals, like, variety is definitely important, as they mentioned, but you don't want to hit what's called hedonic adaptation, which in psychology is like when you essentially accomplish like your biggest ultimate goal. So if you're entrepreneurial, you're setting yourself a massive goal that's like, okay, I'm gonna make $1 million or have the best dog walking business on earth or whatever.
If you claim entrepreneurship,
hit it,
you
it's
must
like-
never be pleased.
Yeah, you hit that
have
ultimate
to
goal.
never
Like,
have a ceiling.
Pretty much.
there's a potential that
just-
you won't have any other greater goals beyond that,
Oh,
and then at that point you could be depressed. You can get really sad. Your life can just easily spiral out of control.
Whoa.
So
See Michael Jordan
that's
win his
why
first 3 rings?
variety is important.
yeah, right.
Cried.
Yeah, he had to like
Cried.
he had to like do things to like trick himself into wanting it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that phase where you lose the hunger.
Yeah.
Like it's funny. I like watching comedy a lot too, and it's like the funny thing I've always noticed with like comedians that get really big and then like they start branching off into different avenues and then come back is like there's always like a little bit of edge that gets lost, I think, in that, because it's like before it's like they don't have that same, like there's not anything they're building towards anymore. Now it's just like a hobby, but I think it also kind of knocks you off your game a little bit when it's like you lose that hunger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
That's it.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, what? Anything else? Like,
I feel like we thoroughly covered the
covered a
topic,
lot.
honestly.
Yeah, we ate that up.
Yeah. Anyone else got any thoughts or anything, or wanna?
Having a boss sucks,
Yeah, having a boss is terrible. It's the worst.
Yeah, I don't
Working
like
for
it either.
yourself feels amazing.
but it's important to know how to interact in that kind of dynamic. But it sucks, and then
Yeah,
you
it
learn
makes
how
you
to be-
appreciate it once it's all gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
You have to know
Which is
how
over.
to serve.
That's right. You
no
gotta
matter what. In a
So that you
sense.
can, if you have employees, they know how to serve you.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Or you
Gotta
know how
learn
to
to-
teach them how to serve you well and set up those workplace cultures that actually keep things going. That makes sense.
Well, I think everyone needs to learn to follow before they lead, but that doesn't mean you never have to lead. So always
Yeah.
work towards being your own man or woman.
Yeah, so if you want to be a leader, make sure you follow us on the Cold Popcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And you can also check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, and Rumble, all places where you can find audio or video. Yeah, once again, this has been the Cold Popcast. Thanks for popping in. We got to pop out of here.
All right.
See you next time.
Peace.